Hello, everyone, and welcome to New Consciousness Review. I'm Miriam Knight, and our guest today is Dr. Eben Alexander III, an academic neurosurgeon who taught at Harvard Medical School and other universities. His father was also a neurosurgeon, and he grew up with a scientific worldview. He was an expert in what happens to the brain when people are near death, and his understanding did not allow for the phenomena commonly associated with near-death experiences. In the fall of 2008, he contracted a rare and usually fatal form of meningitis that put him into a deep coma. It completely inactivated the thinking part of his brain, and his doctors had given up hope for his recovery. He astounded everyone by coming out of the coma on the seventh day, but while in coma, he had some extraordinary experiences and profound insights, eloquently described in his new book, Proof of Heaven, which he is going to share with us today. Dr. Eben Alexander, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, it's good to have you with us. I was really rather concerned after the storm hit the East Coast and you're in Virginia.
Yes, well, it was much worse up towards D.C. and New York, and we were very fortunate. My heart goes out to the people up there, though. I think it was devastating in New York.
Our hearts go out to everybody affected by the storm, and it is a call for everybody to come together and help each other. So our hearts and prayers go out to you all. Well, you had this most amazing background for what you experienced. I can't think of a better person to be able to describe the experience of brain death. So can you possibly start by giving us a quick lesson in neurophysiology? What happened to your brain and its functions during your illness?
Well, it really struck me very quickly. It was like being hit by a train. Amazing how rapidly the bacteria could grow and take over. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning with severe back pain, and then soon thereafter had a tremendous headache, and then was lapsing into unconsciousness within about 3 hours or so. And at the time, unbeknownst to me, E. coli bacteria, and that's a very rare bacteria to give an adult meningitis. Less than 1 in 10 million per year have spontaneous E. coli meningitis in adults. It usually happens in newborns. But the bacteria were growing over the surface of my brain, over the neocortex, and very rapidly were destroying that outer surface of my brain, the part that really is responsible for giving us human awareness and consciousness. The cortex, that outer surface, is where we have all of our visual experience, all of our auditory experience, what we hear, speech and language, movement, all of our rational thinking, all of our orientation of, where we are in space and what is surrounding us. All of that is put together in the cortex. And by having bacteria completely wrecking my cortex and very rapidly driving me into coma, that part of my brain where all of that human conscious experience occurs was down. It was off and being wrecked by those bacteria. So it's really, when I heard details about my illness after coming back from coma, I was just shocked that I'd been able to recover, because my doctors had predicted that by the end of the week in coma, when I'd been on a ventilator, really for the whole week, and shown less and less in the way of neurologic function, including a lot of brainstem damage, they did not expect any chance for neurologic recovery, and thought I'd spend the rest of my life in a nursing home. So I'm very fortunate indeed.
So what do you ascribe your recovery to?
Well, I think my physicians would all agree that it really was a medical miracle for me to come back. And for me, it's very helpful that, for one thing, I would say I had impossible after impossible after impossible, and these kind of forced me to come to some realization of what this all meant and what my journey meant. And when I talk about that string of impossibles, I'm saying, for one thing, to have an E. coli meningitis, which is very rare, and then to go into coma within a few hours. And when that happens, if a patient has bacterial meningitis and goes in coma in anything less than 24 hours, already that gives them a 90% chance of dying from that illness. So I had at least a 90% chance of dying from it when I got to the ER. I was already in coma at that time. I was having grand mal seizures, and I ended up getting intubated so that the ventilator could breathe for me, and that's how I spent the week, deep in coma from the meningitis itself. And that should have completely disabled any kind of experience at all. And yet I had this very rich experience in coma. And that, of course, is the part that has taken me such a long time and a lot of hard work to try and understand. But going back to the impossible, the other feature, in addition to E. coli meningitis and then going deep into coma and having virtually no chance of recovery, to then come out of coma and within hours my language was coming back, within days my family memories, and within a few weeks all my neurosurgical knowledge, that kind of recovery should never have happened. And my doctors will attest that they really have no explanation. I mean, there's not a medical explanation for how this all happened. And that, of course, has helped me to dig even deeper to try and understand it all.
So you had a very rich and vivid experience while you were in coma, and you came back with the memory of it, which you have already said was impossible by most yardsticks. Tell us about the experiences that you had.
Okay, well, it's important to point out that at the very beginning of my awareness, deep inside of coma, that I had no memory whatsoever of my life. I had no language, no words, all that was gone. Any knowledge of humans, of my identity, any knowledge of Earth and this universe were completely gone because of the very severe meningitis. And what I do remember is this awareness, that I was just this speck of awareness that was in a murky realm, very monotonous, kind of foamy realm, almost like kind of boiling black-red mud, a sense of roots or vessels around me, pounding monotonous kind of bass, mechanical pounding deep beneath me, and no body awareness at all. And also, as I said, foamy. Well, the foamy was in space and time, because I think my memory was not working well at all, certainly as we think of memory in the brain kind of sense. And in looking back on it, my thinking is that coarse, ugly realm, which I came to call the earthworm's eye view realm, was the best consciousness that my brain could muster when soaking in pus and being that sick. And it turns out that since I had no prior memory of anything, even a short amount of time spent in that realm seemed like an eternity. And I did feel like I was there for ages and ages. And at some point in that very prolonged, monotonous period, there was this slowly spinning bright light with this lovely melody, absolutely beautiful musical melody going with this light as it approached my awareness. And it was the most beautiful visual and auditory experience, especially because everything I'd ever known had been this monotonous darkness kind of under the ground. And as that melody and light spun toward me, they slowly kind of ripped open, like ripping the very fabric of reality, and it was a portal into a lovely valley. And I was coming up through this valley, and I had no body awareness at all. I was moving up into a much brighter, very colorful, alive part of the valley, verdant, fertile, waterfalls falling into crystal pools. And it turns out that I was moving because I was a speck of awareness on this butterfly wing. Beautiful butterfly colors, shifting, indescribable, beyond the rainbow, and then millions of other similar butterflies around us in this lovely flowing river of color and life. And this river of butterflies would flow down into the greenery and then back up high, and we'd go by these flowers that were blossoming and blooms that would open as we went by, and below us these what I later in my writings called villagers, but dancing, singing, lots of joy and merriment. I think they were souls, actually. And then beside me on the butterfly wing, I saw that there was this beautiful girl. And I can remember her face perfectly, just absolutely lovely, sparkling deep blue eyes and this wide, perfect smile and high cheekbones. And I remember she was dressed in the same kind of simple garb that the people dancing below us were in. But it had very vivid colors, very alive colors. And her thoughts would go right into my mind, into my awareness, that you are loved, you are cherished, there is nothing you can do wrong, you have nothing to fear. And when she said nothing to do wrong, that applied only in that realm. It did not apply in the earthly realm. Some people misunderstand that. But it was so comforting, this beautiful reassurance coming from her, especially given where I'd been, in that murky underground realm. And then there was this divine breeze that swept through like a perfect summer wind, and it shifted everything in my awareness. Even though the scene stayed the same, I became aware with that beautiful breath that flowed over me that this was all divine, that the divine creative power and infinite love went through every speck of that existence. And it was after that awareness that all of that scene, and in fact the whole observable universe, collapsed rapidly into a tight ball. And I saw time, as we see Earth time or time in this universe, collapsing into a tight loop or a point, and then the whole thing receded, higher dimensional space collapsing on top of it all, and then entering what I then call the core, which was this infinite black void. And it was infinitely comforting. That love, that divine, had followed right with me. And I was now with this beautiful orb of light, as bright as a million suns, filling that darkness with light, and that beautiful, loving spirit of the divinity. And